Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and here we are back looking at the total Warhammer 3 factions, races, and seeing what other possible lords and heroes could be added to the game following the release of the roadmap that we've had that details extra legendary lords and legendary heroes for different factions, as well as, of course, Harry the Hammer recently being released as well for the Warriors of Chaos. So we've done Beastmen and we've done Bretonia. We're sticking into that alphabetical order. And we're at the Chaos Dwarfs, and you're going, holy potatoes. The Chaos Dwarfs have only just come out, and you're talking about additional legendary lords to heroes. Well, I'm going to cover all the factions. It seems that a lot of factions have, 4, 5, 6 legendary lords, even more in some cases. So, there's definitely still room to add things into the Chaos Dwarfs. We're not going to forget them. Now, the Chaos Dwarfs is an interesting one. With the other factions, we've been looking at what was really sort of usable, what was in the 8th edition army book, or what was the normal 8th edition army. So, Chaos Dwarfs didn't have an army book since the 5th edition. Models in the 8th edition were really only available from Forge World. They really came out with the Forge World book to Merkin, and so they didn't have the sort of the same faction standing, and in fact I never once saw them on the tabletop myself. So I did play Chaos Dwarfs back in the 5th edition days, but I haven't really seen them on the tabletop in 6th, 7th and 8th edition. It was not very popular around that time because factions don't get updated, aren't that popular. So I am going to use the 5th edition army book as a sort of a reference guide. As I say, with the previous factions, there are many other lord and hero choices that could be added in. The lore for Warhammer is vast. The numbers of characters are vast, and I'm trying to stick to the ones that either had rules on the tabletop or are certainly very famous in the story. And that most people familiar with the faction would know, even if they're not true lore warriors, so to speak. So, with the Chaos Dwarfs then, current lords, Zatan the Black, Astrogoth Ironhand, and Drazrath Ashen, they were all lords in the 5th edition army book, so no surprises there. But there are 2 other possible lords that were also in that book. You've got Gorth the Cruel. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that would probably be clamouring for Gorth the Cruel to be in, because he was Master of the Conclave. He rules out of Zarnagrund. Zarnagrund is there. There's a faction in Zarnagrund, which I think is, okay, great. But he wasn't known for leading that many armies, though he is probably the most powerful sorcerer. He's also a bitter rival to Astrogoth, but Zatan the Black is actually his army commander. And so Zatan generally leads the armies. So Gorth is really kind of holed up in Zarnagrund, waiting to become, essentially the overall, leader of the Chaos Dwarfs in that way. So Gorth the Cruel as a playable army commander, for me, absolute possibility. But how much is he going to offer that's different than the others? Whereas I think, if we look at Shator the Executioner, I think he would offer something different. Now, Shator the Executioner, again, was in the 5th edition last army book, but he's a bull centaur. So this would be a different lord than just another Chaos Dwarf, sorcerer and so on. So he's a bull centaur that carries a huge axe, the Darktide axe. He's actually one of the few blessed bull centaurs that was born into the Dawizar society. So I think he would be my choice to add into the game. For me, it's coming back to that, adding something different, adding some variety into the game. And I think having him as a playable lord would add that. And I think that could definitely be an interesting play around a sort of an army or a sub faction of the Chaos Dwarfs that are focused very much on monsters, Lamazoos, Taurus, Bale Taurus, and the Bull Center Renders, and so on. So I definitely think for me he could be a real interesting Lord choice that would add something different. In terms of current heroes, we've already got Gordo's Backstabber, and to be honest, he's a great hero. He's a persistent hero, and if every race is getting one legendary hero, then the Chaos Dwarfs don't really need another. I've included it for the sake of completeness of what could be there. I'm not sure, I'm not sure that they will get another legendary hero, or should they? If every race is getting, one, not every race is going to be able to have, 7 legendary lords and 1 legendary hero or 2 legendary heroes or whatever. But do I think there's going to be another legendary hero for the Chaos Dwarfs? Personally, I don't think so. I think we've had that one with Gordo's Backstabber, but he was in the 5th edition army book. But if we look at the other potential heroes that were in that army book, say for the sake of completeness, you got Rykard the Unbreakable. He was captain of the Immortals, so you've definitely got a play around a legendary hero boosting Immortals. He's well known for his toughness and his sort of courage and bravery amongst his kind. So he would represent definitely that sort of uber tough legendary hero, tough to kill on the battlefield. He definitely had involvement with Archaon, so there's a play there potentially as well. He actually was part of a deal with Archaon providing hell cannons, for example. So I think he's definitely an interesting character. Say he was in the book. He had rules known for being incredibly tough. So, an interesting character, and I'd say a leverage there with the Immortals. Then you've got Hrothgar the Renegade, known as the Sorcerer of the Forge. So he's definitely going to be much more around those sort of War Machine elements. Again, was in 5th edition. So he's a sorcerer. So there's something different there again than the other heroes. Overall, it's just focused around War Machines. That's really what he's most well known for. He actually was part of the aid of Lord Mortkin, and so he provided Lord Mortkin with a bunch of War Machines for his invasion. So and is even rumored that he'd been involved with Tsar Nagrund in different ways as well, with Gorth the Cruel. So maybe if Gorth the Cruel came in, you could see Hrothgar the Renegade in there, primarily because of his War Machine, even though he is known as the Renegade. So, but certainly, I don't think that potentially we're going to see any more legendary heroes for Chaos Dwarfs. I don't potentially think we need any more legendary heroes. I think Gordo's Backstabber would have been my choice. He offers something different around the Hobgoblin elements. But certainly for a legendary lord, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Shar-Tor the Executioner. Especially given that Gorth the Cruel isn't known for leading armies, and we've already got Zatan in the game. So that's my take on it. So there's plenty of characters out there in the lore that could be looked at. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. If you disagree, don't give me a thumbs down, but put some comments in down below, and we can have a good discussion on who you think should be added to the Chaos Dwarf roster as a legendary lord, and why, or who could at least be on that possible list of choices that you think is as well known, had a model, had rules, or something that I'm not aware of. So absolutely do that. And if you want to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. It's free for you to do, and it means a lot for me. So thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you very soon.